The San Francisco 49ers are entering one of the most fascinating transitional phases in recent franchise history. And what we're seeing right now is not just a series of offseason moves, but a calculated attempt to extend a championship window that many believed was beginning to close. This is a team that has consistently hovered around contention, but now finds itself walking a tightrope between maintaining elite status and preparing for an inevitable generational shift. The headline move that immediately jumps out is the addition of Christian Kirk, a one-year, $6 million signing that, on the surface, might look like a complimentary piece, but in reality carries far more strategic weight. Kirk is not being brought in to be the face of the offense. He is being brought in to change how the offense functions. Over 8 seasons, his production has been steady and versatile, and that versatility is exactly what this offense lacked at critical moments last year. When you break down the film from the previous season, the issue was not simply protection or play calling. It was separation. Brock Purdy was holding onto the ball longer than designed, often forced to extend plays not because the offensive line collapsed instantly, but because receivers weren't consistently creating windows early in routes. That's where Kirk becomes essential. His ability to operate in space, especially from the slot, introduces timing back into the offense. But Kirk isn't the only wide receiver addition reshaping this unit. The arrival of Mike Evans completely alters the hierarchy of the receiving core. This is not just a veteran presence. This is a future Hall of Fame caliber receiver who immediately commands defensive attention. What makes this move even more intriguing is the contract structure. With only a modest cap hit in 2026 and heavy incentives tied to performance and availability, the 49ers have essentially created a low-risk, high-reward scenario. If Evans returns to form, the offense gains a dominant outside threat capable of winning contested catches and redefining red zone efficiency. If he doesn't, the financial damage is minimal. That's not just smart cap management. That's strategic flexibility. It allows the 49ers to aggressively address other needs without being financially handcuffed. And this is where the broader roster construction comes into focus. The addition of Osa Odigizua may not generate the same headlines as a star wide receiver, but internally, this could be the most impactful move of the entire offseason. For years, the 49ers' defensive dominance was built on interior disruption. Think back to the days of DeForest Buckner and Arik Armstead at their peak. That ability to collapse the pocket from the inside made life significantly easier for edge rushers like Nick Bosa. Odigizua brings that element back. His pass rush win rate and run-stop efficiency place him among the upper tier of defensive tackles, even if his sack numbers don't immediately reflect it. What he does is create chaos. He forces quarterbacks off their spot. He collapses running lanes before they develop. And most importantly, he elevates the players around him. In a division that features high-powered offenses, that kind of interior presence is not optional. It's essential. However, despite these aggressive additions, there are still clear areas of concern, and perhaps none more pressing than the defensive end position. The retirement of Bryce Huff leaves a noticeable void, and with uncertainty surrounding the health and recovery timelines of other edge players, the depth chart looks thin. This is not just a roster gap. It's a philosophical challenge for new defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. Morris has historically relied on speed and flexibility at the edge. His defenses thrive when they can generate pressure without overcommitting resources. Right now, the 49ers don't fully have that personnel. That's why the upcoming draft becomes so critical. Prospects with burst and bend off the edge will be heavily evaluated, because without that element, the entire defensive scheme risks becoming predictable. At the same time, the return of Dre Greenlaw might be one of the most underappreciated moves of the offseason. This is a player who understands the system, the culture, and the expectations. His chemistry with Fred Warner is already established, and that continuity matters more than people realize. While there are concerns about durability and declining coverage metrics, his run defense remains elite, and in a division that still values physical ground games, that skill set is invaluable. What makes Greenlaw's return even more important is the context of the defense as a whole. Last season, this unit underperformed relative to its talent level. Bringing back a familiar voice and presence in the middle of the field helps stabilize a group that is undergoing both schematic and personnel changes. Now, if you're enjoying this kind of deep dive analysis into how every move connects and shapes the future of a franchise, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay locked in, because we're breaking down every major NFL storyline with this same level of detail all offseason long. One of the more overlooked storylines is what the 49ers didn't do, particularly in how they handled their own free agents. Players like Jawan Jennings remain unsigned, and that speaks volumes about how the front office is evaluating positional value. Jennings brought physicality and reliability in key moments, but the addition of Kirk signals a shift towards speed and separation rather than contested catchability. This is a philosophical pivot. The 49ers are moving toward an offense that prioritizes spacing, timing, and efficiency over brute physicality at the receiver position. It's a subtle change, but one that could significantly impact how defenses game plan against them. And then there's the looming situation with Trent Williams. At 38 years old, still playing at an elite level, he represents both the strength and the vulnerability of this roster. The front office is attempting to restructure his contract to ease the cap burden, but the question becomes, how much future money do you commit to a player approaching 40, regardless of how dominant he remains? This is where the tension lies. The 49ers have the cap space to absorb his current deal, especially after restructuring Bosa's contract. They could simply let him play out the season, but doing so delays the inevitable. Eventually, they will need a successor, and finding a franchise left tackle is one of the most difficult tasks in football. That brings us to the draft strategy. With a late first-round pick, the 49ers are in a position where they must balance immediate needs with long-term planning. Do you draft an edge rusher to fill a current hole, or do you invest in the future at left tackle? This is the kind of decision that defines front offices and shapes competitive windows. Layered on top of all of this is the broader context of past decisions, particularly the Trey Lance trade. In hindsight, it's clear that the move did not yield the intended results. None of the draft assets involved remain with their original teams, and the ripple effects of that decision are still being felt. However, what's important is how the 49ers have responded. Instead of collapsing under the weight of that miss, they pivoted. They found stability with Purdy. They rebuilt the roster through strategic acquisitions and calculated risks. And now, they are once again positioning themselves as contenders, not by chasing perfection, but by embracing adaptability. Even the international aspect of their upcoming season adds another layer to this narrative. Opening the season in Melbourne against the Rams is more than just a logistical challenge. It's a test of preparation, discipline, and focus. Traveling across the world to start the season introduces variables that most teams never have to deal with, and how the 49ers handle that situation could set the tone for the entire year. All of these elements combined paint a picture of a team that is evolving in real time. This is not a rebuild. This is not a full reset. This is a recalibration. The 49ers are attempting to remain competitive while quietly transitioning into their next phase. And that is one of the hardest things to do in professional sports. As the offseason continues, every move, every contract negotiation, and every draft pick will carry amplified importance. Because for the 49ers, the margin for error is razor thin. They are close enough to contend that every decision matters, but far enough away that one mistake could derail everything. So as we move closer to the season, keep your eyes on how this roster continues to take shape, because what we're witnessing isn't just roster building. It's a franchise trying to extend its relevance in one of the most competitive eras the NFL has ever seen. If you want to stay ahead of every major development and truly understand what's happening beneath the surface with teams like the 49ers, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is where the real analysis lives.